everyone, and welcome to Live Interactive English. I'm Mike.
And I'm Sam.
And today we are looking at King Arthur and the Half Man, which makes sense. This has been a year for kings. Well, we had King Charles III recently became officially the King of Britain, or the Great Britain or England. He's a king, you know, the king. And we're also going to be talking about King Arthur and the Half Man in our story for you this month. Now, King Arthur, you're an expert, I know.
Oh, yes.
An expert on King Arthur here. We have with us our dear Sam. What can you tell us about King Arthur?
Well, I can tell you that he pulled a sword from the stone.
Ooh, good one, yes.
He had a round table.
He did.
And he had some knights.
He had a big dinner.
Wait, were they called knights?
They were knights.
Oh yeah, the knights of the round
Knights,
table.
yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Right,
and there was
right.
like Lancelot and there's
Galahad.
And there's a Guinevere in the mix. That was his wife or love interest.
Who's the kind of he's like Gandalf.
Oh,
he uses magic. He has the same tailor. He buys his clothes at the same store. Merlin!
Okay, I was going to say, it was right there, yeah.
The long beard, yeah.
Okay, I know something about him.
Pretty fantastic. Oh, also remember the Holy Grail. He went
that was
on a
from
quest.
King...
Yeah, I think he went on a quest for the Holy Grail. Now, a lot of this stuff is more myth and legend than history. If you actually go to Britain, where King Arthur is from, you won't find his grave, you won't find a castle. We're not even sure he was alive, but, and here's the important thing for us here today, he has a lot of good stories. The stories are really, I mean, King Charles III is, you know, nice and whatever, but he doesn't have great stories like King Arthur does. So let's look at one of those stories, King Arthur and the Half Man. I guess he was on a diet.
Yeah, maybe.
When King Arthur was young, he enjoyed wrestling and beat anyone who ever faced him. One day, he heard two old men talking about a man who was named Hanardine. They warned Arthur that Hanardine was strong enough to best him. Arthur wanted to know more. You will easily throw him at the first trial, but after a while, he will grow stronger, one of the old men said. He never gives up. You may throw him again and again, but he will conquer you at last. They asked Arthur not to search for him, because he turned all his previous opponents into his slaves.
Okay, so we are talking all about King Arthur and the Half Man. So this is one of the many, many, many stories of King Arthur. And again, as Mike has said, maybe happened, probably didn't, but we get to have some fun and interesting stories that could kind of teach us something with what the actual storyline goes. And so we're going to see what happens in this story.
That's true. It might not be history, but it's a great legend, and of course it has heroes and villains. And as you said, many stories, I've never even heard of this story.
Either.
So let's get into it and see what happens with this adventure of King Arthur. It says, when King Arthur was young, he enjoyed wrestling, just like me, and beat anyone who ever faced him. Just like me. No, not really. One day, he heard two old men talking about a man who was named Hanardine. That's a pretty good name for a wrestler, Hanardine. Okay, wrestling, of course, is a fighting sport. It's not boxing. It's the one where you grab people's arms and legs, you roll around on the floor. Sometimes you jump on them from great heights if you're on TV. But it's an old type of fighting sport they used to do in Europe. So he was a great wrestler, and he wanted to maybe face the best wrestler he could, because, you know, he's King Arthur. But his friends, they warned Arthur that Hanardine was strong enough to best him. This is an old way of basically saying to beat him. If someone bested you in a game or a contest, they beat you. They did better than you. They were the best and you weren't.
Yes, and so King Arthur hears this, and especially if he hears somebody say, oh, this guy could beat you. Well, I don't think he's going to take that very well.
No.
So, as we read, Arthur wanted to know more. You will easily throw him at the first trial, but after a while, he will grow stronger, one of the old men said. So one of the old men said, the first time you meet him, you'll beat him easily. He will be just, so weak, so easy to beat. But eventually he's going to end up beating you.
The old rope-a-dope.
and so the old man continues talking and he says, he never gives up. You may throw him again and again, but he will conquer you at last. They asked Arthur not to search for him because he turned all his previous opponents into his slaves.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so he doesn't just beat them. If he beats them, then they become his slaves, and then they never leave his house or island or anything like that.
No, he owns them. He treats them like animals. They have to live in his home and do whatever he wants. And of course, for a King Arthur, or any king, that would not be acceptable. He could not be someone's slaves. But that is what happened to Hanardin's previous opponents. Previous is an adjective that just means one that came before. Maybe right before, maybe a little bit before, maybe a while before, but before, okay? So if you bought a new cell phone because you dropped your previous one in the swimming pool, that means you were silly with an earlier phone and dropped it in a pool. The previous one got wet, so you had to buy a new one. Here we have an example sentence. She had a previous appointment, so she couldn't make it to the meeting. A meeting's an appointment, but she had an earlier or a previous appointment. And we also had the word slave.
Yes, and slave is a noun, so Hanardin turns all of his previous opponents into slaves after he beats them. And so slave is a noun, and it means to be forced to work for somebody, and you have no choice, you have no pay, you have no freedom, you are a prisoner, they've basically captured you and forced you to work. So obviously nobody wants to be a slave. And our example sentence actually does a pretty good job of giving you an idea of what that word means by saying the slave was forced to work long hours without any pay. So they really have no rights, and King Arthur does not want to be a slave.
Absolutely. I don't think many people want to be a slave. No, that would be a weird thing to want to do. All right, let's take a break and we'll be back and find out what happens with Arthur and Hanardin as they fight.
Hello， 大家好，我是 Hanny。这次要读的故事是 King Arthur and the Half Man， 亚瑟王与半身人。老师们一开始聊到亚瑟王有许多相关的传说，那故事里面往往会有英雄和反派。那我们补充一下 villain 这个字 ，V-I-L-L-A-I-N，villain 就表示反派角色或者是坏人啊、恶棍的意思。那我们就来看看今天的故事咯。亚瑟王年轻的时候喜欢摔跤，而且任何曾经与他交手的人呢，都输给他。有一天啊，他就听到两位老人在讨论一位名叫 Hanardin 的人，他们就警告亚瑟王说：“这一位 Hanardin 他的实力能够打败他哦。”亚瑟王听了就很想要了解更多嘛。那其中一位老人说：“第一次你可以轻而易举的把他摔倒，但是过了一段时间他会变得更强，而且他从不放弃，那么最终就会征服你。”这让 Mike 老师想到一个拳击的战术，叫做 rope-a-dope， 就是假装被困在擂台的这个围绳边，引诱对方拼命的攻击，直到他体力耗尽，然后我们再全力反击这样子。好，那么接着故事里面这两位老人就请求亚瑟王不要去找 Hanardin， 因为 Hanardin 把之前他所有的对手都变成了他的奴隶。好，我们来看单字 previous， 它是形容词，形容先前的、以前的或者是早先的。那么 slave 表示奴隶，而文中的 wrestling 它表示摔跤运动。它的动词是 wrestle， 就表示摔跤或是搏斗。那在后面加上 r 变成 wrestler， 就是摔跤选手咯。老师还有提到 boxing， 就是 box 加上 ing 构成这个名词，就是拳击的意思。好，那这边3个重点，我们进入文法时间。好，我们来看第一个重点是感官动词。感官动词啊，是指看、听、闻、感觉之类的动词，包括 watch、see、look at。Listen to, hear, smell, feel 等等。我们以下介绍2种常见的用法。那第一个用法就是感官动词加上受词加上原形动词，那这是指观察到这个事实或是过程。第二个用法是感官动词加受词加上现在分词 VING， 这则是观察到动作正在进行。那我们来看2个例句。 We saw some kids playing baseball. 我们看到一些小朋友正在打棒球，所以这边是用 playing。We stood there and watched them play baseball. 我们就站在那里看着他们打棒球，所以这边是用原形动词 play。好，再看到第二个重点是关系代名词 who 的用法。关系代名词 who 可以引导形容词子句来修饰或是补述说明指称人的先行词。那有分成限定用法跟非限定用法。限定用法就是当这个先行词它是非特定的人，我们就要限定它的范围咯。所以形容词子句的功能是限定修饰先行词 who 的前面不加逗号。举例来说 The guy who is sitting next to Kevin is an actor. 坐在 Kevin 旁边的那个男生是个演员，所以我们这边用关系子句来修饰前面这个 the guy。好，再看到非限定用法是，当先行词它是特定或唯一的人，形容词子句的功能就是要补充说明先行词。那么 who 的前面要加逗号，就是把这个补充说明的部分隔开。举例来说 ，Dana's brother who is sitting next to Kevin is an actor. Dana 的哥哥坐在 Kevin 旁边，他是个演员。好，第三个重点是 warn 的意思和用法。首先呢 warn 可以表达提醒、警告，那要用 warn that 主词加动词，或是 warn somebody that 主词加动词，或者是你可以用 warn of or warn about something。那么 warn 后面也可以加人当受词。举例来说 ，She warned her children about the dangers of playing with fire。她警告孩子们玩火的危险性。那再来另外一个用法是 warn 来表达告诫某人不要做某事，我们就可以用 warn somebody not to 加原形动词。例如 She warned her children not to play with fire. 她告诫孩子们不要玩火。好，继续回到课文中。
Arthur was eager to find this worthy opponent and set sail to search for him. He searched far and wide until he found a distant island. There he met Hanardine, who was actually a young boy. Arthur easily beat the boy in a wrestling match. As Arthur prepared to leave the island, Hanardine encouraged him to come back and wrestle again.
All right, so King Arthur, who when he was a young man, I guess he was already king.
Yeah.
Or he could have been Prince Arthur. But anyway, he's young and he likes wrestling. It's one of his favorite sports because they hadn't invented basketball yet. So obviously that's why he liked wrestling. And he heard about this great wrestler in the land called Hanardine. But his friends warned him that Hanardine is a great wrestler, but don't fight him, Arthur. If you lose, he will make you his slave. And for a king, it's not okay to be a slave.
No.
You can't be a king and a slave at the same time.
No, that would be not so good. You kind of leave your whole country without a king if that happened.
Exactly.
So as we read, though, King Arthur didn't really care so much. No. He still really wanted to go fight this guy. Yep. So we read, Arthur was eager to find this worthy opponent and set sail to search for him. He searched far and wide until he found a distant island. So he had heard his name. He knew he was somewhere out there, but then he finally found this island that was way, way, way out there, very distant. And I think he's going to find him on that island.
Wow, he was really, really looking for this guy.
Yes, and so we have this word eager, which is an adjective. And eager means that you are excited for something to happen, or you are looking forward to something happening. You can't wait till this thing happens. And so obviously King Arthur has already beat a whole bunch of other wrestlers, and now he thinks, I need to find a good opponent that can actually match me. So he's eager, he can't wait, he's really looking forward to this other opponent. And so he's like, okay, I'm gonna go try to find him. And so we have this example sentence. It says, he was eager to start his new job. So he just switched jobs and now he can't wait. It's gonna be so fun. I'm so excited to start this new job.
There you go. It's excitement before the thing happens and you can't wait. You're so eager. So he's eager to find this guy. He did search far and wide and finally he was successful and he reached this little island or wherever he ended up. It says there, in that place, far away, because remember, he looked for a long time. So there, finally, he met Hanardin, who was actually a young boy? A little boy? We got young King Arthur, who's probably a young man at this point, and he's fighting a 12-year-old or something? All right, this is a little strange. Arthur easily beat the boy in a wrestling match. Well, sure, he's probably twice the size, twice as strong, and he would beat this young boy in a wrestling match. But remember, his friends warned Arthur that Hanardin will let you win the first fight, and then he will get stronger and he will beat you in the end. This sometimes happens. If someone is really good, they might lose at a game and then say, hey, let's bet some money on the next game. And suddenly they're really good and you lose all your money. You were tricked. So that could be what's happening here. But so he won the first fight. Okay. As Arthur prepared to leave the island, Hanardin encouraged him to come back and wrestle again. So Arthur's walking away like, oh, I'm so good, I'm so great, I'm number one. And Hanardin, the young boy, said, oh, good fight. I might have lost this one, but I encourage you to come back and try again. To encourage someone is basically to give them courage, to give them emotional strength and support because I believe in you. I think you can do it. Go out there and play your best game. Don't be afraid of these guys. You guys are much better. I'm not actually playing with you or helping you in a real way, but I'm using my words and my spirit and my emotion and my positive energy to give you the power, to give you that lift, to make you believe in yourself so you go out and do an amazing job. For example, the coach encouraged his players to keep practicing to improve their skills. Coach can't play, but coach can encourage, and hopefully the players then will play even better. Well, there you go. That's the end of it.
Yes.
I don't know.
So far, it's kind of a little, because, I mean, this great opponent turned out to be a little boy, and obviously he beat him so easily.
Yeah, I also wonder, like, how did King Arthur feel about wrestling a boy and beating him? I mean, you might have to hurt the kid, and, well, I think maybe Arthur will get his, or the boy will get his revenge on Arthur tomorrow, but the only way to find out is to come back, so please do that, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye.
亚瑟王很渴望找到这一位实力配得上他的对手 Hanardin， 那他就四处寻找，最后来到一座遥远的岛屿，他就遇见了 Hanardin。可是对方其实只是一个年轻男孩耶。亚瑟王在摔跤比赛当中轻轻松松就打败他了。不过亚瑟王准备离开岛屿时 ，Hanardin 还鼓励他再回来摔跤。好，单字 eager 它是形容词，形容渴望的、热切的。我们可以用 be eager to 加原形动词去表达渴望要做某事，迫不及待要怎么样怎么样。那么 encourage 这个动词则表示鼓励或是敦促的意思。好，那么以上节的讲解，同学别走开，马上回来哦。
When King Arthur was young, he enjoyed wrestling and beat anyone who ever faced him. One day, he heard two old men talking about a man who was named Hanardin. They warned Arthur that Hanardin was strong enough to best him. Arthur wanted to know more. You will easily throw him at the first trial, but after a while, he will grow stronger, one of the old men said. He never gives up. You may throw him again and again, but he will conquer you at last. They asked Arthur not to search for him, because he turned all his previous opponents into his slaves. Arthur was eager to find this worthy opponent and set sail to search for him. He searched far and wide until he found a distant island. There he met Hanardin, who was actually a young boy. Arthur easily beat the boy in a wrestling match. As Arthur prepared to leave the island, Hanardin encouraged him to come back and wrestle again.
Choo-choo! Are you a big train enthusiast like me? I love riding the trains, seeing the view, relaxing, and just getting to my destination in a peaceful way. Today we're going to be looking at Chiayi Train Station's very interesting history and see how it's developed into the modern train station that it is today. Sit back and enjoy the ride.
In Taiwan, there are some Union train stations with 3 different rail systems. These 3 different rail systems are usually railway, high-speed rail, or MRT. Chiayi Train Station was also a Union train station before, but it had a very different story. Chiayi Train Station was the first Union train station in Taiwan. This Union train station had the Western Trunk Line, the Alishan Forest Railway, and the Taiwan Sugar Railways. They had their own industries and features. The Western Trunk Line was the busiest line. It served many passengers every day. Until now, it was a main route to take passengers to their destinations. The Alishan Forest Railway was used to deliver wood. Its route was upwards around the mountain. Now it is used for tourism. Many tourists take the train to Alishan. The Taiwan Sugar Railways had a lot of routes in Taiwan. They carried sugarcane to mills. Of all the lines of sugar railways, the Beigong line had the most traffic volume. Now, all of the lines of sugar railways are not used anymore. Chiayi Train Station is important in railway history. It experienced a lot of changes. Chiayi Train Station gives us a lot of memories.
Chiayi Train Station definitely has a very colorful and interesting history. Being the first Union Railway station in Taiwan is definitely something it can boast about. And also having the Alishan Railway, which is my favorite railway, it makes it definitely worth visiting.